Hi everyone, welcome to another brand new episode of the Outlier Podcast. I've got a friend with me today, Anil, joining in from Keesler Federal Credit Union. Hi, Anil. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well, Anurag. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely our pleasure, and thank you for taking your time out to do this episode with us. We really appreciate it. Quick introduction: who Anil is. Very passionate technology leader, right? Been in technology leadership for the last 3 decades, starting his career with consulting, like most of us, across consulting, then moving to commercial banks, and finally found his way out to credit unions. He spent some years in Alliant in Chicago. Now Anil is the CIO for Keesler Federal Credit Union, in charge of leading end-to-end technology transformation for the credit union. That's a very impressive background. And I won't steal the thunder, but if you want to add something in case I've missed, that doesn't harm.
Absolutely, Anurag. Thank you for that quick intro. Yeah, I do think of my career in three thirds, if I can say that, right? The first third is more of the engineering hat, where I did a lot of coding, did a lot of enterprise software development, multiple technology leadership roles. The second third is where I feel like most of the transformation or change happened for me personally from a career perspective, where I had the opportunity to kind of take those engineering skills and enterprise understanding, blend that with, I would say, my learnings from business school. And then timing wise, I got the right opportunities to be at a large organization like GE to build out a digital bank. So that kind of changed the trajectory for me and really positioned me for all the other roles, subsequent roles, either at Goldman or CIBC and further at Alliant. So the last third is where I would say like it's more of building off of that second third, where software engineering, leadership roles, financial organizations, and then using that to lead organizations like Alliant or Keesler, where there's a lot of opportunity to bring that talent and deliver to the members and the team members across these organizations. So that's how I'm thinking about my career. And clearly, there's tons of opportunities in the credit union space, and excited to be here at Keesler.
Absolutely. I mean, we need more people like you who've seen the outside world, for the lack of better words, we've been with Goldman, CIBC, now coming down to credit unions to deliver the same experiences and lead technology transformation, right? So that's great. And I think thank you for whatever you're doing for the movement. And all of us have left our jobs at other firms and come to credit unions. So that's
Of course, no, grateful for the opportunities, Anurag, for sure.
absolutely. Let's start this with maybe one question, right? So essentially, being a CIO of Keesler, right? So how do you define the role of technology in driving both member trust? That's one. That's the most important thing because of which we exist, and also fueling long-term growth. Because unless you balance both of these well, it's difficult to run a shop.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the answer to that question would be different based on a different organization. Being at Keesler is very unique. This is my first job outside of a major city, and being in the Gulfport, Biloxi area, you have to think a lot about the region, the demographics, and the competition, right? So all of these are very important ingredients of how you devise your technology strategy. And then if you think about the people dynamics as well, that goes a long way. If thinking about the talent that is available here, how best you can get the value from the talent, right? So all of these play into you coming up with your strategy, and then not to forget the journey Keesler has been through, right? So it used to be 2 billion per credit union not too long ago. Now we just hit 5 billion, and we see a clear path to a 10 billion organization. So these are big numbers and big changes, and these big changes need to be supported by technology. That is a non-negotiable moving forward. So that is clearly recognized. That creates the landscape for me to actually come in and do all the things that I have learned and deliver to the organization and the members. So member experience, it's different. So that's where when I say the experience and expectation of a member in this region is a little different from an experience from Chicago or New York or in Austin or Dallas, right? So I think we have invested heavily in terms of delivering a white glove service through branches. But what we have also come to realize is that's not something that will take us into that next phase of our credit union as we get to that 10 billion. How do we deliver this best-in-class white glove experience through all the other channels? The goal for us as an organization is to deliver that unified member and employee experience across all channels. no matter if you're at the MCC, the member care center, or you're at a branch, or you're engaging us with the mobile through the mobile or web, the experience should be seamless. It's easy to say, it's very hard to deliver, right? And so that's kind of the problem statement that I'm trying to really deliver on. And it's not something that can be done in 6 months or 12 months. And it is a long journey, it's a marathon. I'm not saying it'll take forever, but it needs to be thoughtfully put together, taking into account all of these dynamics, the past, the present, and where we want to be, and how do we kind of continue to deliver that best-in-class member experiences to our members, but also to our employees.
I think, this is not unique to you. So I'm not naming the credit union like $6.5 billion credit union. Exactly same not problem, exactly same thing. So the basic difference that what I heard, if a member wants to open a checking account through a branch, there are, I think, 5 steps. When you want to do on a mobile app, there are 6. The experience is different. It's basic, right? Basic things. So member journey mapping, etc., might be the first way to go forward. And with a leader like you, I think putting together a technology roadmap and implementing it one by one, I don't think it's a problem, but it needs commitment from the board. It needs commitment from the organization, which I'm glad that you have finally, and you have that independence to go and execute things one by one. Because again, to your point, I mean, you won't reach the 10 by doing exactly the same thing that you did from 2 to 5. It's a whole new ball game altogether.
100%. Totally agree with you.
Now let's talk about modernization. I mean, obviously, there are codes that I love. There are new codes that will come in, headless codes. Talk about for the next 1 hour maybe, but still, I mean, the reason because of which I talk about codes, obviously, they are good, they are cool. But talk about modernization priorities can be a bunch of things. It might be maybe getting a new data warehouse, or replacing an existing core, getting new LOSs or platform. So if you have to rank order, maybe your modernization priorities, what are the most critical modernization priorities that you have right now, and how do you look at them?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Anurag, and that's something that is constantly on top of my head in terms of, not that I'm changing that, but I think continuously optimizing the plan. Broadly thinking, right? So if what I said earlier, if the mission and vision is to deliver that unified member and employee experience across all channels, how do you go do that? And I think from an architecture point of view, the core things are, you need to have a good, solid foundational operating model.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you need to have a good core banking strategy that needs to be enabled by an API strategy, and then a data and AI strategy. So all of this to deliver that digital strategy, right? So those are the building blocks of a very high level, board level strategy. But each one of those are important for you to deliver. So, and you can't necessarily do all the things at one time.
Yeah.
The way we are approaching is we are focusing on making sure our core banking strategy is sound and that we don't need to touch for the next 3 to 5 years. Make sure we are making some no regret decisions on what our core banking roadmap would look like. To your point earlier, we cannot flip and switch core banks just like that, right? So as much as you want to, it's a love-hate relationship, right? So you need it, but you, within like 3 or 5 years, you start seeing that cores become very heavy from a customization point of view, and they become legacy pretty fast. So making some no regret decisions on how do you want to integrate with the core, and then focusing on a good data strategy. We have been a buy shop, meaning, which is very true, again, to your point, not unique to us. That's the strategy most of the credit unions this size have done, is like invested in vendors and the relationships, and they have delivered the services, and so it's very fragmented. So data has not been a key component of the overall build out. So because every one of these vendors have a piece of your data. So it's important for you to have a cohesive data strategy, especially now, since there is so many new AI capabilities that are getting delivered in the marketplace. Without you having a foundational, good, solid data strategy, you cannot really deliver value through AI. You can in pieces, but you can't have a cohesive AI strategy if you don't have a good, solid data strategy. So that's why I think core banking, no regret decisions, focusing on data strategy, not necessarily trying to solve all the ocean, but what is really important for the business and what are the right data sources that you need to have, create a single source of truth for the organization, and then have an AI strategy on that. But to your point, what is my focus for the short term, right? So in the near term is automation, because there is so much opportunity within the organization to create value, because a lot of work is getting done in manual steps or handoffs or hops between one team member to the other. And that those are clear opportunities for you to automate and then inject AI wherever you can to make them more productive, right? So that is the focus. So data, automation, and core banking, those are the key focus areas in the short term. But all of these will build into that overall architecture that I said. Operating model is important. All of this will not work if you don't have a good operating model. When I say operating model, it is the ways of working. How do you engage with the business? How do you deliver outcomes? How do you engage with the partners? There needs to be a good, well thought out of operating model. So operating model, core banking, API strategy, data strategy, AI strategy, and then the digital strategy that kind of elevates the game with all of these.
Yeah, I think, this is becoming table stakes nowadays. Again, all of us want to develop that member 360, but it's not that easy because, again, connectivity issues. No one, it's so fragmented. I mean, for the lack of better words, it's so fragmented.
It is.
You have a long journey to make this happen.
Yeah.
And I wish you all the best, Anil. It's not easy.
Yeah. No, I think setting the expectations is also super important. And that's where you learn as you grow in your own career, is like, how do you tell the story and how do you bring the board along and the executive team along in terms of this journey? Because these are things that cannot be delivered in 3 to 6 months. But then it is also important for you to have some clear sense of how you're going to deliver continuously on the value. You cannot just say, hey, give me 5 years and I'll deliver this, right? So that's not going to work. I'll be out of a job then. It's more about how do you sell the vision, but also deliver value on an incremental basis that aligns with that vision.
It's a welcome change that someone spoke about automation and not agentic AI. So it's good.
Yeah. It's going to come next, right? So that's a natural progression. You need to start with automation and then extend into agentic AI. You can't I'm sure there may be a debate. Somebody is up for, why can't you jump into agentic AI? And
I'm not up for the debate, please. Let's do RP. Let's do RPA, then let's do analytics, data science, then AI. It will take some time. I mean,
exactly. That's the path you're taking.
Very bullish about it, but I'm very sorry to hear all credit unions talk about agentic AI. Okay, that's fine.
Makes sense.
Next, so you covered half of this over here, but still, I want to just talk about data-driven decisioning. I mean, obviously, you want to develop a member 360. That's the basic. I understand. What does like a data-driven decision making look like at Keesler? I'm not asking you about use cases for sure, no, but at least how is the roadmap looking like, and in the near time, what are the few things you're planning to put your hands on to deliver incremental benefits using data?
Yeah, no, there's tons of opportunities that we have identified over the last few months that I've been here. Maybe I'll not to exaggerate, at least over a dozen different use cases that my team has met with the business to really understand what their day-to-day work is and how they are making certain decisions and what their roadblocks are, what is available, what's not available. So it's a little bit of the data and automation, like I said earlier. And for them to be able to make the right decisions, they need to have the right data, right? And in terms of one common theme that we saw is folks toggling between screens.
That's nightmare.
Yeah. Or calling another person within the credit union to get an approval, right? So, and that person asking for more data. So these are all seem like very age-old problems, but these are real problems still exist in organizations.
Credit unions.
Things like those can be solved by providing the right data, but also the right automation, so that it's a cross section of data-driven decision making, but also automating those decision making, because that removes the need for these manual handoffs or interactions, and that's where people may argue that is agentic AI, and I say that's low-level agentic AI, but
low-level agentic AI.
Yeah, but ultimately that is the data-driven. But then where is your data? So that's the bigger problem that we are dealing with right now, because our data, to your point earlier, since we are a heavy buy shop, is everywhere. We have not invested in a data lakehouse. So that's what we are prioritizing now, is like, hey, let's bring all of our data home so that we can, one, make the right decisions, but also provide that data for other business units to make the right decisions. So it might sound very rudimentary, but
still,
realistically, that's where we are. We need to, not that we are doing high-end data decisioning, we are, but they're happening in very like verticals. Like it's happening in the lending portfolio, it's happening in the deposits portfolio, it's happening in the marketing portfolio. How do we bring all of it together? I think is the focus that I'm bringing through build out of a data lakehouse, enabling that data strategy, and then ultimately, building the integrity and trust in that data. Because I've run into scenarios where there's two truths that are being told. Both of them are real, but both of them are telling a different story. Neither of them are wrong. So that's not a good place to be in as we grow into a $10 billion organization.
Absolutely. I mean, I was about to make that point. So bringing all data in-house, at least getting the most important focus to be data governance and lineage, right? I mean, let's talk about agentic AI. Let's talk about AI next year, right? I mean, in 2027. First, let's get the governance fixed for now. Let's create a governance committee. But I'm glad that you're talking the same language, Anil. I work with credit unions and I talk about the exact same language that, guys, let's not buy another fancy object that will give you another smart chatbot to help customers type in. Let's not do that. It will complicate the heck out of it. It's good to know that you're thinking for the same lines.
If I can comment on that, right? So these point solutions make sense, and that's what most of the vendors really want to. And I'm not saying that they're wrong, but I think the enterprise mindset is super important because it works for you until a certain scale, but after that it works against you. Because
absolutely.
I am of the belief that if you're investing $1, you need to extract at least 80 cents on that dollar value. At least, hopefully, $1.10, hopefully, but at least. Yeah. But a lot of times what happens is you invest, you buy this tool, and you're only getting like 40 cents worth of value. And the other 60 cents is actually left on the table, or it's only one side is extracting that value, right? So that's the hypothesis that I keep in front of the teams and challenge them to say, how do we change that?
This podcast can be an hour-long conversation because there's no dearth of topic that we can talk about and vision about. Absolutely. Let's move on to the organizational perspective, because obviously you're coming to a relatively smaller credit union, 5 billion, right? So there are organizational and cultural changes that have happened. Plus, you've moved from Chicago. You travel so often, right? From Chicago to
yes, I do.
Exactly. So, what organizational or cultural changes you think are required for specifically for the technology team to be effective partners to the business, because the world is changing and it's changing very fast?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's a very, I wouldn't say difficult question, but a question that needs to be answered very carefully, right? Because culture is more important than strategy. As the saying goes, culture eats strategy for lunch, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and more, right? So I think if you don't have the right culture, strategy doesn't do anything. So we are a very unique organization. I think I mentioned earlier, geographically in the deep south, a lot of the culture, the regional culture goes into it. Like I've come to realize how big SEC football is in the south here. And not that I didn't know about SEC football, but that is front and center in most of our conversations at the organization level, at my team level, at the board level, at the chief level, right? So I'm giving you a sense of that because there's culturally, it's very different from, a Chicago or a New York or other cities. Understanding that, and then add to that the culture around how the organization got built, which is a buy versus build. So we are a heavy buy shop. So a lot of the talent is on managing the vendors, understanding the technology, but managing. I'm not saying we should change from buy to a completely build shop. Build is what I have done extensively in my career, but we need to figure out what the right balance is. But then, so it's a lot it takes a lot for you to first understand the culture around the organization, outside in, and then within inside what has been historically the approach. And then as you put your vision forward, calibrating what do you need to take the current state to that future state. And that is the phase I'm in right now. I really getting more and more ingrained and in depth with the current organization, and then identifying where the opportunities are, the gaps are, and how to bridge those gaps. And then give the opportunities for the team to basically take on this, and then complement where needed by external support. We don't want to, that's how you kind of educate and change the current state of the organization while you are bringing them along on this future state strategy. So it's a long game. I am not thinking of it from a flip of a switch, change things, and then embark on this new journey. This is going to be a gradual change that is going to be aligned with the culture of the organization, culture of the region, and give opportunities for the teams, because we want this to be an organization that everybody looks up to in this region. We are the biggest game in town as a financial services company.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people are, like my CEO was mentioning just this morning, the number of applications that come into any job posting has significantly gone up. There's a lot of demand from the outside in. That tells you something about it. So, but then how do we provide the current staff also a higher level of opportunities? So those are the kind of things that I'm continuously thinking about, and it's a multifaceted opportunity to change the culture, but it's going to be very thoughtfully done to continue what we have built, but also give a taste of what the future would look like and lead them there.
Makes sense. So in the interest of time, I'm going to ask you one last question.
Of course.
I know both of us don't have crystal balls, so hence difficult to predict tomorrow or a year later. But still looking ahead, maybe in the next couple of years, right? So what technology capabilities, if I ask you, in your 2 cents, will differentiate the credit unions who will grow to the mark of the 10 billion and the one who won't?
Yeah, no, I will go back to the high level strategy or the high level enterprise architecture view that I gave you, right? So, but within that, I'm focusing a lot on really mapping out the journeys of the both members and team members, and seeing how we can actually create higher value for the investments that we are already making as we think about this digital transformation. And I'm a strong believer that digital doesn't just mean web and mobile. Digital means how do you deliver a connected experience through automation, through technology, across all channels. So if that is the true meaning of digital, right now for us, it's about understanding the journeys and then making them seamless across all of our channels. So that is our focus. And to me, that will come through existing tools and a little bit more of automation, and tap into AI capabilities wherever we can. So a combination of data, automation, and a flavor of AI is the focus in the here and near term. And when I say here and near, 6 months to 18 months, or maybe 12 months. And the 12 months to 24-month period is basically taking it one step further up and saying, hey, core banking strategy enabled by API strategy that ultimately is supported by data and AI to deliver the digital strategy. That will continue to kind of shape into the future, but with higher degree of fidelity. It's about automation. It's about understanding our current needs and leveraging data, automation and AI. I think is the focus for now.
This was great. A first-hand experience from a CIO who has started his role a few months back at a decent sized credit union. This was a good conversation. Thank you again. Thank you for taking your time out to share your insights, and this was fantastic. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Anurag. Really appreciate the opportunity.